Playground!
Hooray!
This is the Deron Harris Podcast. Here's your host, Deron Harris.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining me this week. I hope everybody had a good week. My week was it was all right, a little perilous, but needless to say, we're alive. It's cold outside, but we are still here, living full time in our Class A RV out here in the wilderness of Florida. We've gotten some challenging temperatures, and it's been a little perilous, like I said, but we still here. We still around. We ain't going nowhere. So, what am I talking about today? Well, before I get into that, I just want to make sure that everybody's mental health is on task for this week, and that I will always encourage anybody out there who is suffering from any kind of depression or anxiety to go out there and seek help. There's plenty of help out there that's available for you right now. Please go out and seek help. You do not have to go through any of these things alone, okay? So, with that being said, here's something that could definitely affect people's mental health, and that is digital blackface. What is digital blackface? What is digital blackface? Well, Wikipedia says that digital blackface is a term used to describe the phenomena of non-black individuals using digital media such as GIFs, memes, or audio clips featuring black individuals to express emotions or convey ideas. This behavior has sparked debate and criticism due to concerns about cultural appropriation and the perpetuation of stereotypes. Digital blackface has been described as one of the most insidious forms of contemporary racism and has been compared to historical minstrelsy, while others have completely dismissed the concept in its entirety. So it goes on to say, while the definition of digital blackface can vary, it has been used to describe the phenomena of non-black individuals using digital media such as images and voices of black individuals to explain emotions or phenomena. Digital blackface has been defined by Merriam-Webster, the dictionary or the research company, as the use by white people of digital depictions of black or brown people or skin tones, especially for the purpose of self-representation or self-expression. Digital blackface refers to the act of non-black individuals using images, memes, GIFs, or other digital content featuring black people in an exaggerated or stereotypical ways to express emotions or reactions online. It draws parallels to historical blackface, where white performers painted their faces to mock or caricature black people. In a digital context, it often involves using black expressions or cultural elements in ways that reduce them to entertainment, stereotypes, or exaggerated emotional responses like anger, sassiness, or humor. This can perpetuate harmful stereotypes even unintentionally by treating black people as props for amusement or emotional expression rather than respecting their full humanity and lived experiences. Okay, so that is what digital blackface is, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, it happens. It's out here. I see it every day, every single day online. You see digital people using these images or using digital blackface. Dressing up in digital blackface. Let's just call it what it is. People out here dressing up in digital blackface on a daily basis. And it's all over the majority of social media platforms, and it's not really regulated at all. I mean, it's really kind of a loosely based thing. It's almost like anything that involves black people, especially black people, there's just not a lot of care that goes into it. Now, it's the opposite for white people. So if somebody culturally appropriates a white person, it's a big deal. But to culturally appropriate a black person, the only people who consider it a big deal are black people. And that's not right. That's wrong. That's very hurtful. And it's on the rise. It's definitely rising because they're taking liberties in places where they really shouldn't be taking liberties. There is an article I just read about, and I think I've seen it online also. Somebody posted it online as well, about an AI chatbot. Now, this AI chatbot was a representation of a queer black woman. And I forgot what they said her name was, but this lady had a conversation with it. And the lady called the AI chatbot out, to which the AI chatbot recognized that it was being called out and complimented the person for catching these things. She asked it questions, like who the developers were and how did they know anything about being black or queer for that matter. And the AI spit back out the fact that the development team of the AI was a bunch of white folks, a bunch of white engineers, and I think it was one Asian person. And my question is this: what do those people know about being a black gay woman? See what I mean? That's digital blackface. And it's in practice right now. And they're putting things like this in practice in order to have influence over our society and our culture. And that's wrong. They're figuring out ways to manipulate us, even with AI. So you have to be careful. You have to do your research. You have to see where the origins of these things are coming from, because these things are deliberately out here to hurt us. It is harmful. Now, what are the harmful effects of digital blackface? Now, I've got about 15 things that are prepared, that I've kind of jotted down, that could be considered harmful. And what digital blackface actually does. Number one, it perpetuates stereotypes. Flat out. It reinforces harmful and exaggerated stereotypes about black people, or me, essentially. Reducing me to a caricature. I'm nobody's caricature. You know what I mean? I might be a funny dude from time to time, but I'm not a caricature. You know what I mean? I'm a person, just like everybody else. I'm a person. I go through things, and I think those things need to be respected. I have a family, just like you have a family, and I think that needs to be respected. And you want to be respected. You want to be respected by everything. Well, respect is something. Respect and love. Respect and love are the same. There's something that you show. They're not something that you say. And a lot of people have shown that they just flat out do not respect black people. They just don't respect us. Even though black women are the highest, the most highly educated demographic in our society. Here in America right now. Go figure that out. It's not white men. It's black women. It's not even me, black men. It's black women. So number two, it erases individuality. Treating black expressions as universal ignores the diversity and complexity of black lives, because like I said, my life is just like your life. I do the exact same things that you do. I care about the exact same things. Well, maybe not the exact same things, but I have the capacity, the same capacity that you have. I am not a piece of cattle. I'm not a cow or dog, anything like that has no. I guess it does have control over its actions, but it's really just not competent or privy let's say, to certain types of intellect. I'm privy to the exact same intellect that you are privy to. It exploits black culture. That's number 3. It commodifies black culture for entertainment without acknowledging its origins or struggles. Number 4, it invalidates black experiences. Mocking or misusing black expressions trivializes real emotions tied to systemic oppression. But people don't recognize that. They don't put any humanity behind it. They don't see any the lack thereof behind what it does. Or maybe they do. Maybe it's done intentionally. Maybe it's something that is done intentionally in order to keep us in this state of, I don't know what you want to call it, this state of mental disorganization. Where we put our emotions and our energy into other things because we are easily offended by some of the things that are said about us. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the tactic. Number 4, it invalidates black experiences. Oh, I already did that. Number 5, it promotes racist tropes. It revives harmful tropes of black people as overly emotional, aggressive, or comedic. There's other sides to black people, the same sides that other people have. But our society has been taught and trained over, it's been 400 years. Trained, even before that black people are bad. And they're only good for a few things, maybe as something to laugh at. But they get overly emotional. Yeah, maybe we do get overly emotional because there are some things to be emotional about, because you didn't experience the things that black people have experienced at the hands of white people in this country or any place else. But I'm speaking. Let's just say that I'm speaking here. It's very difficult to not be emotional when you see things that are just nonchalantly thrown in your face, that are deliberately hurtful and were deliberately created to hurt you. Of course you're going to be emotional. But we're told that it's not a big deal because it's not a big deal to them. And just because they think it's not a big deal doesn't mean it's not a big deal, okay? Just FYI, so that we are all clear out here. It's a big deal. So damn right, we have the right to be emotional if we're going to be anything. Of course we can be emotional. They say that we're aggressive. If we were aggressive, just hypothetically say we were aggressive, we would pale in comparison to the aggression that has been shown to black people by not just white people, but a lot of people. A lot of different ethnicities of people have straight up shit on black people. Black men especially. And I'm doing this again. I'm calling everybody out, man. And this is what this is about. You know what I'm saying? This is what my podcast is about. And if it's something that you can't really get down with, I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? I just don't give a fuck, because I'm tired of people treating black people like we are not important. Like our issues are not important, like our things, like our lives, like everything about it, like our culture is not important, but then at the same time turn around and want to take and hijack our culture. It's like we're around to create culture so you can steal it and name it as your own. And that has to stop. There does need to be self-sufficiency in the black community, yes, but that's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about digital blackface and the cultural appropriation of black people online. Number 6, it silences authentic voices. Using black content as entertainment overshadows the voices and the creations of real black people. And I am a black content creator. And I want my voice to matter. And people just using, my voice just so they can, make fun of something or culturally appropriate something is just, that's disgusting, for lack of a better phrase. Number 7, it encourages cultural appropriation. It normalizes the misuse of black culture for personal gain without understanding or respect. It alienates black communities. That's number 8. Seeing their culture as misused online can create feelings of exclusion or disrespect amongst black people. And I kind of feel that. Because I'm talking to my producer the other day, and I'm at the point now where I'm trying to figure out how to create my own social media platform. I'm dead ass serious. I'm fucking sick of it. I'm really getting sick of all of these the social media platforms saying that they're all for the people, but Mark Zuckerberg just took away fact checking and all that. It ain't for us. They want a lot. They want people to be able to say what they want, of course, but they don't draw the line at racism, and I think that's a problem. I really do, because it allows the institution of racism to perpetuate and continue without being checked. And I'm sorry, in a modern society, I believe that there really is no place for that. There is no place for racism. So, I'm like I said, I'm actively trying to figure out an alternative to some of these social media platforms, because I'm sick of the hypocrisy that comes with them. Number 9, it desensitizes users to race. Oh, don't run out of batteries. 7, wait a minute. Okay, number 9, it desensitizes users to racism. It makes racial insensitivity seem acceptable in digital spaces, dulling awareness of its impact. And that's it. It's almost like building a callus, to racism. Like we are expected to deal with it. We are expected to deal with people being racist towards us, even though people know that racism is wrong. They continue to be racist, but they hide behind fake accounts in order to be racist, and post racist because they have no threat of being of losing their current life or their current way of life, or being. That's why people create more fake accounts to say racist bullshit. It makes my head spin. It's just so fucking crazy that this is allowed to persist in a society. It's 2025, man. You'd figure we'd be trying to get around this, but we're not, though. We're full steam ahead, right back into the center of it. And I don't want to turn this into a political podcast, but the dude coming in to be the president, he doesn't respect people like me. He says he does, but you can tell by his cabinet that he doesn't really. And, or if he does, it's only surface. Ultimately, we are not in that boys club. You know what I'm saying? We are not in that boys club. Vivek Ramaswamy entered that boys club, and the only reason he's in it is because he's a billionaire and probably friends with a lot of these other billionaires, and they find use for him. So I don't think that us being the society that we are, I'm trying to figure out a way to put this. Us being the society that we are, how do I say this without... Well, you know what? Fuck it. I think motherfuckers should go to jail for racism. If you're a racist motherfucker, especially if you're a cop. If you've done any... I think you should go to jail for racism. There's no... You can go to jail for so many other things. You can go to jail for walking down the street while you're black, minding your business. I think that cultural appropriation also should bear some sort of penalty. There should be a penalty for that. That is not your culture. You are not this person. This is not you. And the way that you have decided that you can include yourself in this space is bold. It's arrogant. It's not necessary, and it's wrong. So I think that should be definitely addressed. Number 11, it undermines allyship. And what I mean by that is non-black individuals participating in digital blackface harm their credibility as allies. So even if you think that you're doing something to help the community, you're actually not. You're actually not. Now, again, my producer and he's my best friend, and he we had a conversation not a couple minutes ago actually, and I was telling him about my topic today, and I went on to let him know that he is not someone who appropriates black culture, and the reason is, well, and if anything, he and the owner of the platform, Gentry Thomas, along with some other people, they actually they make it easy for people like me to bring awareness to situations like this, without them being black. And they don't try, they do not appropriate black culture. They never have tried. I mean, I've known, my producer since we were kids, and he's never tried to appropriate black culture. Now, is he a cool motherfucker? Yes, I will say he's a cool motherfucker. He has rhythm, he can play basketball. Yes, cool motherfucker. But has he ever tried to appropriate black culture or, be black or mock black people? Not that I can say. And even still, in instances where it may have been even remotely sketchy, I've always been there to check him for that or let him know what the actual consensus is. So he has always, because of me, kept his ear very close to the ground. So, number 12, it reinforces systemic racism. It reflects larger systems of racism that treat black people and culture as consumable. It's like we're a fucking pack of cigarettes or some shit like that, or some gum, or a fucking sandwich or some shit like that. We can just, we can get it, consume it, and dispose of it. And, once we're done with it, or once they're done with it. But it's our culture. It is what our culture is. So if we create something and then people come over and they want a piece of the action, they just want to consume it so that it belongs to them, especially if it earns money, notably the hip hop industry. So, number 13, it hinders cultural education. It reduces opportunity for learning about black culture in a respectful and meaningful way. Number 14, it erodes digital accountability. And that's big too. It contributes to lack of responsibility for online behavior in diverse spaces. That means, places like wherever they can get away with just being racist, and there's no accountability. There's nothing that anybody can do to it. You know what I'm saying? So, number 15 is this. It increases social division, and that's ultimately what it is. Misusing black culture for humor or memes can deepen racial divides and misunderstandings. Now, some people really, really want it so badly that they're fighting for it. They pay for it. They pay billions to keep us separated. And that's, remember that song, "We Gotta Keep Them Separated"? That's all I think about. But like, why? And the reason why is this. If they know if we were to that we would pull the wool off of the sheets and understand that we all have a common enemy, and it's not white people, it's not black people, it's rich people. It's classism. At the end of the day, a lot of this is based in classism. And I hate to say it, there's more of us than there are of them. And the way for them to keep their power is by making half the population believe that the other half of the population is their enemy. It's textbook. We gotta wake up to it. We gotta understand it. And we have to understand that we are not each other's enemies, because just like you love your things, I love my things too, man. We're not that different. We're just not. You know, my fan base, but my friend base. You know, my friend base is proof of that. We're just like, you know, I mean, I have a very, very diverse group of friends, and I'm very happy, very proud to have that. And nobody tries to appropriate anybody's culture. You know what I'm saying? My wife is Puerto Rican. I do not ever try and pretend that I am Puerto Rican. Not once. I ask her to try to teach me some things to say in Spanish, and she does. But not once do I try and appropriate her culture. I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, we are going to look at some of the consequences for allowing digital blackface to continue. I'm Deron Harris. I'll be right back. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Talking about digital blackface today and some of the potential consequences of allowing it to continue. So, what are some consequences? Well, one is it normalizes racism. Racist attitudes and behaviors may become more accepted in society because, just like anything else, you just become numb to it, become desensitized to it. Another consequence is the marginalization of black voices. Authentic black creators may struggle to gain recognition while their culture is exploited. And that has been the case in a lot of instances in black culture where black and brown people may come up with an idea, but their culture is exploited and gains are made by other people in those forums, but the black people never benefit from it. After a while we started teaching ourselves, how to benefit from the rap game, but there's so many other things that, have been taken from us and exploited, and we no longer control those things. You lose your cultural identity. Black culture may be misrepresented or diluted, obscuring its richness and history. Rises in online harassment. Digital blackface can contribute to an environment where racial abuse is tolerated and encouraged. And I could see that. I could very well see that, because if there is no backlash, if there is no punishment, no repercussions for this type of behavior, then what's to stop anybody from continuing it, perpetuating it, and ultimately, getting people to share it around and become more comfortable with it. The impact on mental health is very real. Black individuals may feel dehumanized, alienated, or invalidated by the misuse of their culture. Like it's a novelty culture. Like it's not valid. It's something that's not valid. That's why we're able to just take it and use it however we want, however willy-nilly. It's the same thing when you see white girls get box braids and shit like that. It's the same type shit. You know what I mean? Barriers to equity. It perpetuates systemic inequities by trivializing the real struggles of black communities. And it's one of these things where if this is allowed to persist, then all these things that I just mentioned, it's going to pick up rapidly, and it's going to happen, and it's going to be one of those things that we cannot stop. And we won't have any control over it, and it's going to be one more thing that we end up having to fight against. Just basic respect. Just having to fight for basic respect in our culture. So how do we address this problem? Well, if you want to fight it, it really does involve like promoting cultural awareness. That's the most of it. That's a lot of it. You have to encourage accountability in online behavior. That's another way. Another way you could address the problem and help fight it is you could support authentic representation of black culture in the digital space. And if you do this, if people do this, especially non-black people, this is going to require everyone to reflect on their online actions and commit to respectful and equitable practices. You're going to have to turn the mirror around on yourself. So how do we stop it? Stopping digital blackface. How do you stop this? Stopping digital blackface requires both individual accountability and collective action to promote cultural respect and understanding in digital spaces. These are a couple of steps that we could address and to help prevent digital blackface. Number one, it's pretty much the same thing with every movement is become educated. You have to educate yourself and other people. You have to educate your people. Learn about the history of blackface. Learn about it. And also, learn about its digital counterpart. What's going on? When did that start? And understand and try and internalize why these things can be harmful to our society. Share the resources and discuss things like this with your friends and your family, and get on online communities and see what's going on. Try and raise some awareness. That's another way you could help this. To avoid misusing black content. If you're not black, try not to use it. Refrain from using images or memes or any other media that feature black people, and especially if they perpetuate any kind of stereotypes or aggression or comedic exaggeration, any of this type of stuff, just don't use it. Reflect on why you're choosing specific images. When you post things, ask yourself if they are reinforcing a stereotype. You got to care, man. You have to care. You have to care. And the reason why people use these things is because largely and mainly is because they don't fucking care. They don't give a fuck about who it hurts, especially if it's black people. They just don't care. So you got to care. That's one thing you really have to do. You have to understand. You have to have some sort of compassion. You got to have a heart. You can promote authentic representation, support and amplify voices and work with black content creators. Like if you're a content creator, there's people reaching out to me wanting to work with me, in which I actually have to return an email here after my podcast, but somebody wants to work with me to promote some things or to have my brand collaborate with their brand. And I'm all for that. You know what I mean? So I'm anxious to check that out. Share the content that celebrates black culture and authentically and respectfully. You could do that. And you could also encourage cultural sensitivity online, foster conversations about the impact of cultural appropriation and digital blackface in online communities. You can call out instances of digital blackface respectfully and explain its harm to those who may be unaware of it. That's what I try and do. Listen, you might not know, so I'm going to give you the pass on this one, but now you know, and now you get no more passes. So that's what it is. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. And now you're equipped with that knowledge. Whether or not you choose to use it from then on, that becomes a you problem. So if you choose to perpetuate it, that becomes, a you issue and is subject to, the scrutiny of the black community, if that really means anything, which I know a lot of times it doesn't mean anything to people, but it means a lot to some people. I mean, especially when, black people, pump 1.7, I think it's billion or something into the economy every year. It means some black voices mean something, especially around election time when motherfuckers trying to get our votes. So it's got to matter all the time. So if you hold yourself accountable and it matters to you and you care about it, then it'll be easy for you to stick up for it. It'll be easy for you to call it out when you see it. It'll be easier for you to hold whatever social media platform you're on accountable. You could advocate for social media platforms to implement guidelines addressing digital blackface and cultural exploitation. And that should, in my personal opinion, that should have been one of the first and foremost things. And they like to hide behind freedom of speech. They like to kind of hide their racism behind freedom of speech. Well, I'm just saying how I feel. It's freedom of speech, so I can call anybody a nigger if I want to. Well, that's racist. And in a society in the future, I think there's no place for racists, even in a place where there is freedom of speech. There's no place for racism. And we have to understand that, and we have to begin to indoctrinate ourselves with that ideology. We have to begin to beat that selves in our brains. There is no place for racism, period. And call it out when you see it, whether it be on the internet, whether it be right in person on your face. Somebody wrote you a fucking letter. I don't give a fuck. Somebody sign language in you or whatever. If it's call that shit out. You are a fucking racist, and I'm gonna fucking shit all over you for being one. And if you start doing it, and you start doing it early, and you get used to you get comfortable with doing it, and people start getting uncomfortable with being hateful bigots, racists. Report content that perpetuates harmful stereotypes or racial insensitivity. Now, I try to do that when I see it, but a lot of people just let it rock, and you look at some of the comments, and people just laugh, and they have the most insensitive bullshit to say, and it just makes you realize that there is a large swath of our population that is deep rooted in racism, and they are comfortable with it, and they don't mind perpetuating it. They don't mind passing it along. They don't mind it circulating around the internet because it voices how they feel about a particular race or black people. Okay? One thing you could also do is practice allyship. Listen to black voices, and their perspectives on what it is and isn't to appropriate regarding cultural representation. If a black person tells you that's not our culture, man, I think you should listen to it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're not black. You should listen to that. You can use your platform. A lot of creators out there, use your platform to challenge racial stereotypes. Highlight the harm of digital blackface. You can do that. Tell them how harmful it is when you use it. As a white person, it'll have a great amount of impact. It really would have a really good amount of impact. I think that it's something that ain't too hard for you to muster up the strength to do, especially if you care. If you care about an equitable society, if you give a fuck that motherfuckers are treated equally. Unless, of course, you don't believe that people should be treated equally, and then, of course, you go ahead and be the douchebag that you are. You can use diverse digital expressions. Choose reactions, and family chat just starts to get annoying after a while, but you could choose reaction gifs and memes that reflect your own identity or are not tied to stereotypes of a specific race. If it's a black meme but there's no stereotype, okay. Much like, a stereotype of Morgan Freeman sitting there, as God, or whatever, like people seem to think he is. Low key, people thought for a long time Morgan Freeman was God. But if something like that, as long as it's not derogatory and it's respectful, I have no problem with it. It's when you start thinking that you have the right to use black dialect when you would never use that to begin with, when that would never even be something that you would do out in public around regular people. I used to have a friend, and I haven't talked to him in a long time, and he used to have he was Jewish. And black people and Jewish people have something in common in the respect that they are they've been oppressed and persecuted. But he used to do this character that around his friends that he thought was very funny, and his other friends, his white friends, they thought was funny until he met me. They thought it was funny, and he called the black hoe. And he used to come on and talk like this, and it was supposed to be talking like a black woman. That was a. And I said, hey man, you know that's one of the most offensive things I've ever heard of in my life. And you know, if you say that shit, I'm gonna knock you the fuck out. Well, I wasn't trying to. You know, I know what you were trying to do. You was trying to be funny, but I'm letting you know right now that the shit ain't funny, bro. It's just not funny. It's not who you are. You know what I'm saying? How would I look standing around here talking about some dreidel? I would look like a fucking asshole, wouldn't I? Much like you look like a fucking asshole. And he stopped. He stopped doing it because he realized that he was, A, being insensitive, B, appropriating black culture, trying to anyway, and C, he was being racist. He was being racist, and he realized that, and he oh man, I never wanted to. I just was, I know what you were trying to do, man, but I'm letting you know that it ain't funny. And if it was somebody else other than me, you might have got your fucking clock cleaned. So if you do, or you are close to black folks, I mean, which I know a lot of people to be. I know a lot of white folks that are actually closer to black folks than they are white folks. And I have no problem with that. That's all good. But, you might want to avoid the over-reliance on black expressions for humor or emotion unless it's authentically represents you. Like if you grew up in the hood all your life, there's certain shit, that you just pick up growing up in the hood all your life. You just do. You know what I'm saying? And even still, it doesn't make it right to appropriate someone's culture, someone's racial culture. You know what I'm saying? Although Eminem is fucking lights out rapper, he's not a black dude, and he's well aware of that. Not for nothing, the black community and the white community has let this brother know that you ain't that. But meanwhile, he is able to, he's able to take an art form that was created by black people and excel at it, which I have no problem with that. That means he has put the work in. And not for nothing, he has respectfully put the work in. There's a lot of rappers out there, a lot of white rappers out there, just out there trying to get a payday. This dude wanted to be a hot rapper, period. That's all he ever wanted to be, was a hot rapper. But you got so many rappers out there now that rap to get famous. They don't rap to be the hot rapper. You know what I'm saying? So, you could teach media literacy. That's another way you could do it. You could educate younger generations and new internet users on how to engage online in ways that are respectful and they respect cultural boundaries. Like I try that with my kids also. I always tell my kids, I have 2 biracial kids, and I tell my kids always, there's going to be some motherfuckers going to have some shit to say to you. Always. Motherfucker. But you don't have to engage that shit. You can be smarter than them. You can be smarter than them by knowing what this is and knowing how hurtful this is. You know what I'm saying? So take the time to educate your friends and family on what digital blackface is and how it is hurtful to you and your community. You can discuss how seemingly harmless interactions online can have a broader societal consequence. Talk about that. How does this affect our society? If not, you can refer back to this podcast. You could advocate for anti-racism initiatives. You can support campaigns and organizations that focus on dismantling systemic racism and promoting inclusivity. I'm all about that. Just support it, man. All you got to do, if you're fed up with it, like a lot of people say they're fed up, if you are truly fed up with it, then you can't stay silent. You got to be fed up. You got to be fed up enough to get the fuck up and go down and do something about it. Like you were fed up enough to go down and vote. You have to be fed up enough with racism to get up and go down there and say some shit to their face about it, even if it's your own race. You got to tell them to stop the fucking nonsense. You got to tell them that the shit that they're on is fucking stupid. You got to tell them that the shit that they're on is hateful and there is no place for it in today's society. And you got to stand on business. Period. You got to say it with both balls in your whole fucking chest every time that you see it. And if you don't, then you're just aiding it. You know what I'm saying? You got to encourage diversity and inclusivity representation in all forms of and inclusive representation in all forms of media. Okay? I'm tired of seeing 1,000,001 white people on all these commercials. Black people buy shit too. Latin people buy shit too. They honestly do. But increasingly, white folks are overly represented in all forms of media. In all forms of media. And it's only, they might throw a black McDonald's commercial. Okay, it's all black people. No, that's not realistic. Because everyone is in society. And if you live in New York, or a major world-class city, Chicago or a world-class city, if you walk into a fucking McDonald's, it ain't just all white people or all black people. It's all every fucking body every time you walk into fucking McDonald's. And I think that needs to be reflected in America now. We elected the wrong person. And the reason why is because he wants to further perpetuate that whiteness is the social hierarchy in America. And it's just wrong now. Because there ain't nothing special about white folks. Ain't nothing special about nobody. If nobody's special or everybody's special. It's just that simple. But nobody gets to out-special somebody else. You are no more special than I am. You are no more good of a person or bad of a person than I am. And it's time that people get off that, oh, yes, you are. You're predisposed to be a thief because you're black. Well, shut the fuck up. I could say some dumb shit like you're predisposed to be a fucking serial killing, eating, cannibalistic motherfucker because you're white. I could really say that. But that would be wrong. That would be wrong. It would be fucking completely super disrespectful, uneducated of me to even suggest that. Because I don't fucking know. Because I don't know you. You could reflect on implicit bias. You could examine your own biases and how they might influence your digital behavior. How do you feel? How do you feel about black people? Start with that one right there. That's a huge one right there. How do you feel about black people? Do you hate black people? Do you love black people? Are you on the fence with black people? Do you look at black people as people? How do you look at black people? How do you look at black people as opposed to other people? How do you look at black people as opposed to an Asian person? Do you think of a black person as less of a person than an Asian person if you're a white person? What about if you're an Asian person? Do you look that way at black people as well? Ask yourself things like that. Reflect on your own bias. And if you do and you find that you're contributing to this behavior, one thing you could do is commit to unlearning stereotypes and respecting cultural authenticity in all its interactions. That's one thing you really could do. You could step into it. Now, stopping digital blackface isn't about, it is about fostering understanding and having some empathy and some respect, man, online. It really is ultimately what it is. If you want some respect, you have to give some respect. And if you take steps like this, you take proactive steps like this and engage in meaningful dialogue with individuals and communities, this can work, man. This can really work towards a more inclusive and a more respectful online space. It really can. But it's in your court, white people. It's in your court. This is not something that is in black people's hands. We can shout until we're blue in the face, but until white people actually acknowledge it and understand that it is harmful, then nothing about it will ever be done about it. And that's where I come in. That's where my podcast comes in. That's where this comes in. That's me. This is me telling you. So open yourself up. Look inside yourself. Do you still have these hang-ups? Ask yourself, why? Are they silly? Do you hate people because you just hate black people? And why do you hate black people? What's your reasoning behind that? I need some explanation. Because they're black? Not good enough. Because they steal? White people steal. Not good enough. They live in the hood? Well, fucking white people live in trailer parks. Still not good enough. The color of the skin, texture of the hair, all that shit it's got to be more than that, man. It's got to be more than that. So I'm going to take a quick, fast break. And when I come back, we're going to wrap this shit up, all right? This is Darren Harris Podcast.
The podcast playground. Hooray!
All right, y'all. So, social media. What's social media's part? Because social media does play a part in this, and they social media controls more than you think. Social media platforms, they play a critical role in addressing digital blackface. Social media racism and cultural appropriation are rampant on the internet, and it's social media that's allowing it to persist. The people and the people who write the algorithms, those are the people who are allowing this to persist. But there are some steps that we can do to I guess hold social media accountable or get some help from them to stop this. And the first thing I have a few things. I wrote down some things that we could do. And the first thing that social media could do is they could develop clear policies. They could create explicit guidelines against digital blackface, racism, and cultural appropriation, which me personally, I think should have been done from the beginning. There should never, ever have been a place for racism. I don't care how subtle. I don't care how blatant. Should have never been a place for it. I don't care who it comes from. Black folks, white folks, Asian folks, Latin, I don't care. I don't care who the fuck it comes from. There should never be any type of racism. All this stuff should be clearly defined in the and examples and provide examples of unacceptable content. 2, you could strengthen content moderation. Now, Mark Zuckerberg just got rid of the fact checkers on Facebook and Instagram and whatever. You know, I mean, I don't trust that motherfucker as far as I can throw his ass anyway. He's another fucking orange cocksucker. So, I will be actively looking for other social media platforms out there. So if you got a good one, let me know about it. Leave it in my DM. So, but you could strengthen content moderation. Use advanced AI and human moderators to identify and remove harmful content quickly. Train moderators on cultural sensitivity to recognize nuanced instances of racism or appropriation. I think that would be easy to do. You know, they got motherfuckers doing all kinds of other shit. Number 3, implement reporting mechanisms. Enhance reporting tools so users can flag digital blackface, racist posts, or cultural exploitation. Ensure a transparent review process with swift action on reported content. And I think a lot of content, sometimes you report shit, I just think they don't even fucking get around to it or look for it. I think sometimes they just sweep it under the rug, or if it's black people, they don't fucking care. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes algorithms do that. They have a tendency not to give a fuck about black issues. You know, they spiral, you know, I mean, some of these chatbots, they spiral into the worst kind of shit that you could imagine. So, number 4, promote education and awareness. Launch campaigns to educate users on cultural respect, anti-racism, and the harms of digital blackface. Collaborate with cultural experts and advocates to develop informative content. Like I said, if you're a content creator out there and you want to know more about it, or you want to help get rid of it, you know, get with other creators. And that's what I'd like to do, is try and get with some other creators and talk about things like this, some white creators, some black creators, and talk about things like this, to see if we can't stir something up, to see if we can't create a movement. You know what I'm saying? Number 5, elevate black voices. Highlight and support black creators through features, promotions, and partnerships. So that's why I'm saying other social media platforms might be beneficial. You might be able to figure something out. And if there is a social media platform out there that people are liking, that has these, some better elements, of more decent people, that isn't just spiraling into the bullshit that they want you to, while they sugarcoat why they have to do things. It's just it's just a really big fucking con job, and I'm over it. I'm looking for some other social media. Penalize repeat offenders. Social media could enforce penalties for users who repeatedly post racist or culturally inappropriate content, including temporary or permanent bans. Use public warnings or labels to discourage harmful behavior. Let people know right off the bat, if you post this on this platform, you'll be fucking banned. Straight up like this. We don't tolerate it. The simple thing is this. Just all you have to do is say that you don't tolerate that. We are not tolerating this. We will not tolerate this. You know what I'm saying? If you want all white Facebook, then you have all white Facebook. But the last thing we should do, black people, is tolerate the bullshit. I don't give a fuck how many followers you got. Followers ain't worth the bullshit. And if your followers are true followers, they'll follow you to another fucking platform. You know what I'm saying? Tell these motherfuckers to act right, man. Encourage diverse representation. Ensure algorithmic fairness to promote diverse voices and prevent the erasure of marginalized groups. Avoid biases that disproportionately suppress black creators or cultural content. Avoid biases that disproportionately suppress black creators or cultural content. I like that. Just avoid it altogether. Let me say that again. Avoid biases that disproportionately suppress black creators or cultural content. You can avoid it. It's a choice. The social media companies, they make that choice. You can avoid that altogether. Avoid that altogether. If this is what it is, I don't want no fucking part in it. You could regulate the meme and GIF usage. What type of memes are used? You know what I'm saying? Add disclaimers or context when users select certain GIF or memes, explaining their cultural significance. Highlight alternatives that avoid stereotypes or cultural misrepresentation. That's a good idea. If you have a meme that is wants to say something, if it's not your culture, but then there are other memes that do say this same thing, that do represent your cultural background, your culture accurately, then by all means, it should be used. That should be used. To give them a suggestion. Maybe it's the only thing they know. This is the only meme they have. They've seen it all over the internet. They don't know how any other ones. Maybe if there was a database of memes that they could choose from. I don't know what that looks like. Any developers out there, have at it. You could partner with advocacy groups. Advocacy. That's a hard word for me sometimes. Collaborate with anti-racism organizations and culture advocates to refine policies and educational initiatives. Host workshops and discussions on inclusivity with input from marginalized communities. Number 10, encourage user accountability. That's what I would do. I'm trying to create myself my own social media platform, and that's one of the things I want: user accountability. If you say this, motherfucker, we gonna ruin your whole fucking life if it's some bullshit. Simple as that. You need to be accountable for your shit. You don't get to just come over here, take pot shots, and then just run the fuck back off into your regular ass life with no consequences. Nah, motherfucker, you want to get on here and be fucking asshole to people? Watch how we ruin your fucking life, asshole. The internet is very good at that anyway. You know what I mean? Tracking motherfuckers down and getting a justice from motherfuckers for dumb shit. Like they tracked that lady down in Puerto Rico, who burned down the 3 bars because she couldn't get another fucking drink after the last call. And then she jumped her ass back on a fucking plane and went back to her little Anglo-Saxon sanctuary where she thought she was safe, but they reached out and got that ass. Shout out to motherfuckers who got that ass. You know what I'm saying? They can introduce features that allow users to review their post before they post harmful or like offensive content. Some of these things are in place, but some of them, I think they need to be tweaked a little more. Sometimes you might comment something on Instagram that says, hey, you might want to revise this content. It looks similar to something that was flagged by something. I kind of do like that feature, but at the same time, what is it actually featuring? Sometimes, censoring or stopping from being conveyed or communicated. Some of these things, I think it's just doing it because the algorithm doesn't want to promote towards a particular demographic of people, promote certain things towards a particular demographic of people, which I think that's bullshit too. If you post something online, it should be for fucking everybody, because but increasingly people are. There's a guy I follow who said he's getting off the app because the algorithm will no longer show his content to non-followers. You know what I'm saying? So that's suppression. That's content suppression. And this content is very political. It's not racist by any stretch of the imagination, but it is very politically charged. But, I think that as long as it's not racist or demonstrative or combative, if it's not fear-mongering, if it's not based in racism or violence, then sure, let's get it popping. There's more delicate and tactful ways to say what you want about people without being derogatory or racist. It's just beyond me how people have, put this shit out into the fucking universe now, and it's just starting to get old. So, it just gets old after a while. You can also promote authentic cultural content, partner with cultural experts, and creators to promote content that celebrates diversity without exploitation. If you're a white person, get down with a black and celebrate each other's culture. What do you guys eat for fucking, Thanksgiving? We eat this. Well, we eat this. Oh yeah, well, let's try it. Let's switch it out for a minute and get down like that. It's fun. You learn shit. You bridge gaps. You build camaraderie. And you set examples. That's a great thing to do. So, to wrap it up, folks, a lot of these social media platforms, they got to take a proactive stance to this stuff to help, and we need help. We need the help from them to stop digital blackface. Otherwise, it's just going to continue, and I'm afraid that if it continues, it's just going to drive a further rift between the races, and that shouldn't be that way here in the United States of America. Okay, so that's going to do it for this episode of the Darren Harris Podcast. I want to thank my parents for giving me this mouthpiece, man. I want to thank my wife for being my biggest fan and the love of my life and the apple of my eye and one of the greatest encouragers I've ever had in my life. I want to thank my best friend and producer, Jesse Yandel, for finding inflammatory content for me to talk about. I want to thank Gentry Thomas for the platform that I get to talk about this inflammatory content. And last but not least, I want to thank all the listeners out there that are listening to my voice right now, the people who have listened and don't listen anymore, the people who haven't listened and will listen in the future, and the people who are currently listening right now. And if you're listening right now, that means you. So I definitely want to thank you. And until next week, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, man. And remember, cultural appropriation is bullshit. So is digital blackface. All right? I'm Darren Harris. See you next week, y'all. Peace.
You've been listening to the Darren Harris Podcast. Subscribe to the show, give a good rating, And everything you need to know is at DaronHarris.com.